Hi, my name is SK, and this is Thought Infrastructure, right here on Climani TV. This is brought to you by Avenue, Going Beyond, a platform that dedicates itself to cab hailing and delivery services, right here in Kenya at a time where essential services are without doubt something that we all are putting priority on. Today's topic, therefore, is an interesting one, a relevant one at this particular time. And the topic today is innovating in a time of crisis. Innovating in times of crisis, we have to look at this from a point where we need to be realistic, we need to be present and current in our thinking, but at the same time we have to appreciate that so many people have lost their jobs in such a crisis. So many people have gotten themselves in a predicament by circumstance, not necessarily because they're people lacking in ethic, but there are people who are caught up in a black swan event, and therefore everyone has to rethink. But the question is, how are we thinking at this particular time? At this particular time as well, we find ourselves at a place where we are forced by circumstance to release the things that are not working. But how do we release unless we first accept? They say that there is a sequence of acceptance. And number one, we go into panic mode. Panic mode is something that everyone has experienced at this particular time. In panic mode, people want to sell, people want to dump the things they have, assets they have, they want to exit from the investments they have, they panic. And that's not unusual. It's a reflex that everyone gets to have, especially at a time that was unanticipated, unexpected. After panic, people go to denial. They deny. They say, probably things will go back to normal. Probably we only have to wait. We only need to stay in the house and peep from the curtains to the outside world until we see normal. Then we can step out. But normal may not be something we will see. And this is a truth that we have to contend with. But people go through denial nonetheless. After denial, now people go into bitterness. Into bitterness, they get into a place where they start looking for who to blame. Some people are blaming themselves for the pandemic or for the things that have happened in a pandemic. People are blaming, entrepreneurs are blaming themselves for their businesses not surviving in a pandemic. People are blaming themselves for not being kept by their workplace, but being declared redundant, and they blame themselves for some strange reason. And denial is a phase that everyone has to be able to as well appreciate, that you're coming into a place of an essence or an element of confusion. And in this confusion, you're looking for someone to blame because you're looking for a rational conclusion. Everyone is finding closure, but closure in blaming. So who caused this? I dislike my employer or my previous employer who decided to let me go, yet they left someone else in the space who's not better than I am, and on and on and on. And it can be a trap that you can get caught up in when you get into that space of resentment, denial, and on. And now, after this particular space where people are now resentful, now people get into a new place of acceptance. Now you accept that, okay, I may be mad at everyone, plus myself or excluding myself, and it really won't change anything. So you get into that place of acceptance. This is the new reality. And in this new reality, looking behind will not sort anything, but looking forward will indeed bring me to fruitfulness again, because I am a carrier of fruitfulness. And when we get to that place where people now accept, it's like accepting to mourn, accepting to take a moment, be present, and feel the pain of loss. And that's important. It's the process that every human being needs so that they may be able to come out without baggage. So acceptance then brings you to a place of now action. Now that you have accepted, you get to rationally think at things and look at situations from a point of now being sound-minded. And at this point is where I come in to speak about innovation in a crisis. Innovation is about doing. Innovation is not about blaming. Innovation is not about sitting down and hoping things and wishing things away. But innovation is about taking action. Not necessarily because you are not afraid, but as they say, courage is not the absence of fear, but courage is doing it afraid anyway. Point number one in innovation. I look at this borrowed from philosophy from the Greeks that I found interesting, and I borrowed a few things plus some thoughts just to bring it together to a place of being relevant and current. And number one, therefore, is control the controllable. Control the controllable. Save your emotions and energy from what you cannot influence, but direct it to what you can influence and act upon. So emotional energy is important and dangerous all at the same time. When we're emotional, we're at a place of adrenaline. We can do damage, but at the same time, we can use it as fuel and progress forward. And unless we focus on the things that we can control, we will waste and squander our energy on things that are not necessarily relevant at this particular time of crisis. In a time of crisis, you want to reserve your resources. Resource number one is time. Resource number two is energy. And resource number three is money. For your time, is it the time for you to close the curtain and wait to die? To close the curtain and hope that things will sort themselves? Or is this the time to be able to now think constructively, innovate, and progress forward? So, free your resources to build again. Free your resources is first accepting that this situation is as it is, and therefore you have to prune your tree, cut down what you don't need, remove and release the things that are not beneficial at this particular time. There are parts of life that we will get back to when this situation stabilizes from our actions. But there are things you drop and leave. This is the time where people are now even dropping shame. This is the time people are dropping ego, because it's a liability that you just can't afford at this particular time. Free up your resource, and the resource I'm speaking about is not just money, but time, energy, and indeed resources. Number two, focus. Focus is interesting because focus is the opposite of panic, confusion, disorder, and chaos. If you let the chaos come into your mind, then it will sink your boat. A boat is therefore created, interestingly, to be on water. And as much as there is a mass of water around you, the rule of a boat is not to let the water into the boat. If your boat is leaking, focus and fix the leak, because it will sink your ship or your boat for that matter. Take stock of what you have intrinsically that is valuable. Don't focus on what's not working. Start focusing on what's working at this particular time. And things that you have intrinsically inside of you that no one can take away from you are things like skill, your contacts, your network, your goodwill. A good name is better than silver and gold. The question is, now that silver and gold is gone, How do we use a good name as leverage to bounce back to more silver and gold in our lives? Therefore, focus on what's working, not what's not working. Go local is the next thing I would want to say in focus. Go local basically means choose an audience in this particular crisis. Say, these are the people I'm willing to serve, because business or the essence of an economy is to be able to cure a need that is out there. So focus on one need that you can be able to deal with right now, and therefore choose an audience or market target and listen to the ground. Listening to the ground is listen, hear what they want, and what can you do to cure that. Unless you listen to the ground, then you find yourself assuming that the ground wants what it is that you do, either your service or your product. Number 3, innovate. Innovate is an interesting word. Innovate and improve are not the same. Innovate basically means do not improve, but innovate drastically, create afresh, drastically. Do not try to do something better, do something different. Something better is what was pre-crisis, but something different is what suits now that we're in the crisis and even post-crisis. And therefore, innovation is challenging us to think differently. Innovation is challenging us to think outside our patterns of thought. Innovation is challenging us to look at things from a point of accepting that we have been disrupted. And if we have been disrupted, do not compete with the disruption. Accept it and position yourself so that you may be a beneficiary in such a time where opportunities are coming through crisis. Number 4, mindset. Be open-minded is important. And in speaking about being open-minded, open-mindedness is postponing your judgment. Postponing your judgment brings us to a place of, there are things you dismiss and brush off easily, purely because you thought, I don't do that, I don't have to. But this time, be slow before you dismiss or brush off things, ideas and concepts that come to your mind, because probably they could be the innovation that you're looking for. And your mind, therefore, is highlighting things and theories, principles, processes, and products or services that would be valid at this time. The good thing about this time is that everyone is in the crisis. So it's not too hard to realize that something you can use as a cure to your need could be your neighbors, your friends, and the next person's cure at the same time. So the good thing is that we are relating to each other because we're in the same crisis. Whether it's in this schooling thing, everyone is having a hard time educating their kids, homeschooling. Everyone is having a hard time delivering things. Everyone is having a hard time communicating from a distance. So they need a solution. And that's why all these video conferencing solutions are coming into play. Deliveries are coming into play. At this particular time, people are looking for convenience without contact. Contactless business, and on and on and on, are becoming things that people are now speaking about. It's not an improvement, it's an innovation. It's drastically different. Pause to consider before you brush off ideas and concepts, because you may just be looking at something that is beneficial at this time. Number 5, experiment. Theory and practical isn't always compatible. There are things we can speak easily in theory, but sometimes people speak a lot in theory of things that they have never done or things that they can't do. But we have to realize that the attitude we need is to come from a place of saying we don't know what works in practice until we do it. Because sometimes people speak about spreadsheet millionaires. Why? Because in paper it looks good until you go to the ground, then you realize it's not always the same. Experiment multiple theories and ideas in the quickest, cheapest way. Experiment is something that you must do at such a time. You have to look at things, but you have to ask yourself, how do I do them quickly and cheaply? To fail is okay, but failing well is learning how to do it quickly and cheaply. Try something, try it out, put it out, let people sample it. They love it or hate it. If they love it and hate it altogether, harvest both feedbacks and try see what is the truth in the hate and in the love, and remodel your product. Put it out there. Hopefully the hate is higher than the love. If the love is higher than the hate, if the hate is higher than the love, just walk away, go to the next one. If the love climbs above the hate, now that you have considered the things that you received as truths from the critics, then you have found something that is compatible to your market and target audience. Lastly, be agile, be quick. In a crisis, you only make progress by doing. In a crisis, you have to realize that you have to be agile. This is not the point of saying what we used to do that worked. This is the time of innovating, coming in with things that will work now. But they say in business, speed is better than accuracy. And therefore, we think long, we think wrong. This is the time where you have to not overanalyze things. Otherwise, you get yourself into analysis paralysis. But this is where you think of something, release it, get to the ground quickly. It works or doesn't work, then choose whether to kill it or keep it. And in a crisis as well, listen to the ground and move with speed. There's something we say here. We say move at the speed of clarity, execution at the speed of clarity. If it's clear, if it makes sense, and if it's needed, move, go out there. Be agile, be quick, because the people who will be disrupted this time are people who cannot move quickly. And therefore, this brings us to appreciating that smaller enterprises and individuals will have a huge advantage because their decisioning is quick and they are agile, they are lean, and therefore they can make decisions that are quick, agile, and at this particular time, without a doubt, that's a skill that is priceless. So ladies and gentlemen, therefore, even this crisis will pass away and we will look back to see that we did something. I do not advocate for people doing nothing. I advocate that people stay safe. I advocate that people wash their hands and do the things that we are being told to do in context to COVID-19. Nonetheless, beyond COVID-19, we have to realize that at the time of crisis is where leaders are born, and leaders need to be audible and visible as much as they can, because at this time, people need hope. And therefore, the message of hope to you today is that we can as well innovate in a time of crisis and come out victorious, because they say, never waste a good crisis. It carries the best opportunities. This show is brought to you by Avenue, Going Beyond, a platform that does cab hailing and as well delivery services. And in this, I would want to say that at the end of the day, you do your part as God orders our steps. My name is SK. Thank you very much. Until next time, au revoir.